OPPO is back with a bang. The new OPPO Reno 10X Zoom is shaping up to be one of the best flagship smartphones of 2019. Especially with the design. Just look at the design. It looks really good in my opinion. That ocean green color is very attractive. Now, it also has a crazy set of cameras, which includes 3 cameras on the rear and a front camera inside a shark fin selfie module. Interestingly, on paper, the camera specs are very similar to the OnePlus 7 Pro, right down to the megapixel count of the primary rear camera and the front camera. Which is the reason why I decided to actually compare the OPPO Reno 10X Zoom's cameras against the OnePlus 7 Pro, and just to understand what you lose out when you pay less for the OnePlus 7, I've also added that into the mix. Interestingly, the OPPO Reno 10X Zoom sits nicely in between the OnePlus 7 Pro and the OnePlus 7 in terms of pricing. The OnePlus 7 Pro is priced at 49,999, the OPPO Reno 10X Zoom starts at 39,999, and the OnePlus 7 starts at 32,999. Hi, I'm Ershad from Mr. Phone, and this is the BBK comparison you guys have been waiting for in 2019. But before we move on, if you want to see more such awesome camera comparisons, reviews, and more content around smartphones and smartphone related accessories, Mr. Phone is the place to be. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the bell icon right next to it to get notified whenever we put out an awesome new tech video. So let's quickly take a look at the specs. You can see that the OnePlus 7 has a dual camera setup with a secondary depth sensor instead of the triple camera setup on the OnePlus 7 Pro and the Reno 10X Zoom. Actually, for the rest of the video, I'm going to call the phone OPPO Reno for brevity's sake. Moving on, all the phones have been updated to the latest software updates, including the OnePlus 7 Pro. You can take a closer look at the other details of the camera specs while I move on to the actual pictures. As usual, it is the wide shot first. You'll see that the OnePlus 7 Pro continues to overexpose. The phone tends to do it a lot actually, and you have to use the exposure slider to bring it down a couple of notches to get a good image. In fact, even the OnePlus 7 reins it in with great contrast and fairly accurate colors across the board. But it is the Reno that looks immediately attractive with its good contrast and punchy colors. Now at 100% crop at the center of the image, where you can see the Saga Ratna signage, you will notice that both the OnePlus 7 and the 7 Pro look visibly soft compared to the Reno. Even at the bottom right corner, you can clearly see details on the car in the Reno shot. Move to the top near the Big Bazaar signage, and once again you see crisp details even on the leaves on the tree in front of the building in the Reno shot. While this might be some sort of sharpening, it is not the kind of sharpening that looks bad. However, Reno does struggle with exposure control in the areas with a lot of light. I really wish the dynamic range was better though. Honestly, the OPPO Reno has done an incredible job with fine details even in the foliage in many areas in the image. The OnePlus 7 Pro is the second best when it comes to detail retention. The OnePlus 7 looks soft for the most part. It is extremely interesting to check how different phones do processing differently. It is weird that the OnePlus 7 eschews details in favor of the correct exposure, whereas the OnePlus 7 Pro does it the other way around. I still prefer the processing on the OPPO Reno. While the colors are punchy and there are some missteps in dynamic range, it still works as a pleasing image with tons of details overall. Now both the OnePlus 7 Pro and the Reno come with a dedicated wide-angle lens. Evidently, this puts the OnePlus 7 in a disadvantage. Anyway, comparing the two wide-angle pictures, we know one thing for sure: the Reno just sucker punches the OnePlus 7 Pro's wide-angle shot into oblivion. Maybe the OnePlus 7 Pro does slightly better lens distortion correction, but that's like a consolation prize for participating. I don't know why OnePlus had to include a wide-angle camera if the pictures were to end up looking like this. There is literally no color science parity either between the wide-angle and the regular one. Look at the Reno's regular shot and wide shot. The colors in the pictures are very comparable. Whereas in the OnePlus 7 Pro's images, well, the less said the better. By the way, both the phones cannot shoot videos using the wide-angle camera. Just putting it out there. On paper, the Reno has an immediate advantage with the 5x optical zoom camera and the 10x hybrid zoom capabilities. Now, when we look at the first 3x sample, you will notice that the OnePlus 7 Pro uses its telephoto camera to conjure up a lot of natural details. At closer crop, Shree's face and the foliage behind him look very natural compared to the hybrid zoom of the Reno that creates a oil painted look. Despite the better contrast on the Reno, at 3x zoom, the OnePlus 7 Pro's pictures are going to look better for most scenarios. The OnePlus 7's digital zoom is immediately unusable in most cases. I've still kept the images for reference sake. At 5x zoom, the OnePlus 7 Pro cannot keep up with the Reno. The Reno's image looks far cleaner. Now when you jump to 10x zoom, which is maximum that the OnePlus phones can actually achieve, the Reno certainly looks better. But the OnePlus 7 Pro's image doesn't look that bad. I think it is doing a similar hybrid of optical and digital zoom processing for 10x shots. Why? Because I noticed that beyond 3x, the OnePlus 7 Pro uses telephoto for all shots and doesn't really switch back to the main camera. Anyway, I'd pick the Reno for its zooming capabilities. In the first close-up shot of the yellow flower, you will see widely different color processing and algorithms on offer. Undoubtedly, the OnePlus 7 has the dullest image with inaccurate color processing as well. The yellow sunflower looks orange for some reason. The Reno tends to boost the greens and that creeps into the otherwise natural yellow shade of the sunflower. The OnePlus 7 Pro's image is very heavy on contrast and the yellow is not very accurate either. You can fix the colors in post, but not the finer details of the sensor's JPEG output. And that is where the OnePlus 7 Pro feels sharper, especially at the dead center. The petals on the Reno show some noise, but the Reno offers good details on the ray florets of the sunflower and the leaf looks crisp as well. The OnePlus 7 is much softer in comparison. The same processing technique can be seen in the second image as well. The OnePlus 7 has a dull overall color scheme compared to the OnePlus 7 Pro that goes overboard on the contrasty look. The new update really seems to like the whole contrasty effect. The Reno, on the other hand, prefers to boost the reds and the greens. At 100% crop, the slight over-sharpening that happens on the Reno is heightened by the boosted shades of red. The OnePlus images look more natural for sure. Overall, when it comes to the close-up shots, the three phones offer widely different processing algorithms with different color preferences. I can't really pick one phone as the clear winner here. It is tough. I'd pick the Reno for the yellow flower shot, but I'd go with the OnePlus phones in the next sample. When it comes to the HDR test, the Reno is clearly boosting the greens and the reds, and it falls short of the OnePlus phones, which by the way take near identical pictures. The entire color temperature veers towards the red colors with the building looking reddish in the Reno. Look at the leaves in the tree right next to the building. You will see better gradients and cleaner, sharper details in the OnePlus 7 and 7 Pro samples. And evidently, the OnePlus phones have a better control over the highlights and the shadows. The Reno can handle the shadows well, but it loses out on the highlights. The colors are so heavily skewed that even the car's windshield looks entirely green. So yeah, if you want better dynamic range, I would go for the OnePlus phones. In this portrait mode test, let's understand the science behind cameras. Since OnePlus 7 Pro uses the telephoto camera for portrait shots, it composes Shree's face at 74mm focal length, which means that he looks slightly fatter compared to the thin faces on the OnePlus 7 and the OPPO Reno. That's how focal lengths work. Wider the lens, thinner your face. By the way, the actual size of Shree's face is closer to the OnePlus 7 Pro shot, which is why most portrait shots are shot using a 50mm prime lens on DSLRs. Anyway, as far as details on the face are concerned, the Reno and OnePlus 7 are better because of the higher resolution cameras. Even the face tone is better. As far as the level of bokeh blur in the background goes, the Reno has more blur compared to the other two. Now, in the space in between Shree's left hand and his body, the OnePlus 7 Pro has forgotten to blur it out, whereas the Reno misses it in the space between the right hand and his body. So you know, that evens it out. Otherwise, the rest of the cutout is almost on par on all the phones. It is extremely clean. Honestly, when it comes to portraits, all the three phones do a good job. I have no complaints as such. In selfies, the OnePlus 7 Pro really drops the ball. You can clearly see that the Reno and the OnePlus 7 offer crisper details. The Reno tends to oversharpen the natural mode, but it doesn't look bad. Also, the color of the face is more close to what my face actually looks like. However, there is no denying that it boosts the greens in the rear and the color of my shirt is off. You will need to fix it in post. But overall, I'd go with the Reno and the OnePlus 7 as joint selfie champions here. However, when it comes to selfie portraits, the Reno sort of loses out. The edge cutout has issues. You can see it next to my left ear. The OnePlus 7 Pro looks cleanest off the lot, with even the OnePlus 7 struggling. The OnePlus 7 Pro wins this round. After the loss in the previous round of testing, the Reno strikes back. In 4K 60fps video recording, the phone does an incredible job of maintaining a good color tone on my face. The red face issue strikes back on the OnePlus 7 and 7 Pro. Also, the 3D recorder feature on the Reno ensures that the audio quality is leagues ahead of OnePlus's sound recording. My voice has more depth to it, and you can hear the heightened sounds of the chirping birds as well in the Reno's footage. I did notice that the OnePlus 7 and the OnePlus 7 Pro offer a much higher bitrate of 4K video recording. Yes, there is a crisper detail retention in the background of the footage in the OnePlus 7 and the OnePlus 7 Pro, but the dynamic range control was almost similar on all the phones. So yeah, I don't know if the higher bitrate and the resulting 3 times the file size is worth all the effort. The Reno is clearly taking the top spot in 4K 60fps video recording.
Hey guys, we're shooting a video using the OPPO Reno 10X zoom and the OnePlus 7 Pro right now. Do let us know in the comments section below what you thought about the image quality, the image stabilization and the sound recording, as Shri the sound quality and the video quality as well, as Shri pans me around slightly and you'll see.
Now we also shot 1080p 30fps footage. The video stabilization is almost the same on all the 3 phones. But the Reno just kills the OnePlus 7 and the 7 Pro with incredible sound and excellent dynamic range in the end. There is no doubt in my mind that the Reno is a better phone for video recording with the rear camera. By the way, if you're wondering, there is virtually no difference between the OnePlus 7 and 7 Pro when it comes to video capture. Moving on to the 1080p 30fps selfie video, the OnePlus 7 Pro does excellent stabilization and voice recording, but it does crop into the subject a lot. The Reno has a wider frame, but what is weirder is that the OnePlus 7 crops in but doesn't offer stabilization. How odd is that? Overall, it is easy to pick the OnePlus 7 Pro for selfie videos.
Hey guys, I'm shooting a video using the front cameras on both the OPPO Reno 10X zoom and the OnePlus. Let us know in the comment section below what you thought about the image quality, the image stabilization and the sound recording as well. As in the comment section below what you thought about it, as I pan around slightly to show you guys what happens when the light falls.
All the phones can do 480fps slow motion videos at 720p resolution, and they all look identical save for the reddish facial tones on the OnePlus 7. Nothing to talk about here in detail. Taking a look at the indoor selfies under artificial lighting, the Reno 10X zoom just offers so much sharp details with beauty mode off that it looks a lot like pixels processing. I really like this. The facial tones are also closer to my natural face color. The OnePlus selfies just look red and soft. In fact, the OnePlus 7 and OnePlus 7 Pro are equally average, at least in direct comparison to the Reno 10X zoom. That said, the OnePlus phones definitely offer the better color accuracy in the shirt, and the dynamic range is far better too, where it doesn't blow out the highlights in my white shirt like the Reno 10X zoom does. Regardless, in indoor selfies, the Reno comes out on top. In the indoor shot, the color temperature and the whole color science of the Reno is the most accurate, but the difference is not night and day. In fact, the OnePlus phones are close to real life as well. However, the Reno takes a slight lead in details from the center of the image to the corner. The OnePlus 7 Pro is close behind and the OnePlus 7 comes in after that. It is in the low light performance that the Reno loses out to the OnePlus 7 Pro. The OnePlus 7 Pro's noise reduction algorithm works fairly well and brings out details, which means that the text on the books are legible. The Reno has a whole lot of noise, but the details are there too, especially in the band center. The color temperature is off on the Reno though. The OnePlus 7 has heightened the greens and unfortunately smeared it all over the sofa. In the second image, the OnePlus 7 and the OnePlus 7 Pro offer a brighter exposure and therefore are more usable. No camera comparison in 2019 can be done without comparing the night modes, and this is where the OnePlus 7 Pro has a clear edge. When it is really dark, the Reno's nightscape mode doesn't do much, as you can see in the second picture. With flash on, the OnePlus 7 and 7 Pro offer a brighter, more detailed image. The Reno's flash inside the shark fin module falls behind, unfortunately. In low light selfies, once again, Reno offers more details compared to the OnePlus phones. I have a couple of samples for you to see. At closer crop, you will see more details on my forehead compared to the Reno, but the difference is negligible. If you don't like so much details, you can also use the beauty mode to fix any blemishes. The dedicated flash on the Reno helps take an evenly lit selfie with no harsh light falling on the face. This is generally the problem with harsh screen flash used by most phones. It plagues the OnePlus 7 phones as well. The Redmi phones with screen flash in general are warmer and look good. So now that we've evaluated all the scenarios in this camera comparison, what you see on your screen right now is the final points tally. The OPPO Reno actually comes out on top, but the difference in points is not that much. The OPPO Reno takes really good shots in daylight, and the additional wide plus tele setup that you get actually gives you usable results and looks better than the OnePlus 7 Pro's additional cameras. Having said that, I would have liked slightly better dynamic range on the OPPO Reno, and the fact that it actually tends to boost the reds and the greens could have been avoided. I think that OPPO can actually issue an update to fix that problem. But in case you want to fix that issue yourself, you can do that in post. The nightscape or the night mode on the OnePlus 7 Pro and the OnePlus 7 are definitely better than the OPPO Reno, and that probably gives these phones a little bit of an edge. But the OPPO Reno's low light performance is not that bad. I like the fact that there is not too much noise compression happening and it retrieves a lot of details as well. I actually prefer that sort of processing, but when it comes to video recording, when it comes to 4K 60 FPS video recording or 1080p for that matter, the OPPO Reno actually takes the cake, and especially with that incredible sound recording feature and the variety of sound recording options that you get, the Reno is possibly one of the better Android phones out there for video recording using the rear camera. The OnePlus phones definitely offer better dynamic range, and the exposure control in selfies is definitely much better. And apart from that, the selfie portrait cutout is really good on the OnePlus phones. Now the OnePlus 7 Pro also has the better selfie video recording if you're into that sort of thing. And before I forget, the camera app on the OnePlus phones are definitely slightly better than the Reno if you're into that sort of thing. Overall though, I think that the OnePlus 7 and the OnePlus 7 Pro still need one more update to actually get to that optimum performance level. And even in its current state, which is straight out of the box, actually the OPPO Reno offers far more mature camera algorithm and slightly better processing, which makes it easier to shoot using the phone and get better pictures most of the time. So overall, the Reno wins, and that's what is the takeaway from this camera comparison. So that's it from me, Ershad from Mr. Phone. Meet you in the next one. Goodbye and Godspeed, my friends. And don't forget to hit the comment section with your views on this video.